And I'm going to share this to the Taylor House publishing page and also your page as well.
Okay.
So we are live now on Facebook. Welcome. And so if you go to my page, you can share it from my page because I'm live. For some reason, it wouldn't let me tag you. But we are live. And so if you go to my page, you can share it from my page because I'm live. For some reason, it wouldn't let me tag you. But we are live. So if you go to my page, and turn the volume down.
Are you speaking?
Southside Greenville, North Carolina.
I try to be a better man, but folks just don't understand. Try to do all I can to deal with this addiction in me. Lord, I wanna change. I can't stay the same, but the sins that in my vein, it's trying its best just to kill me.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the U-Turn Show. Once again, I am your host, Richard Taylor. You're tuning in live on Awesome Radio, broadcasting from WBIS Awesome Radio 106.9 on your FM dial. Also, don't forget to go to the website, which is www.wbisawesomeradio.org. And also, you can download all of our listening apps on the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, and Alexa. And I also do want to welcome all of my Facebook viewers. Please, once again, feel free to comment, interact with the show. And also, this is a live interactive show, so you can feel free to call in on our studio line, area code 252-756-2008. And I just once again want to thank everybody for listening. I thank our radio audience, and I also want to thank God for allowing us to have this platform. Just a quick plug here at Awesome Radio. We are doing a free fish fry this coming Friday, November the 12th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2531 South Memorial Drive. And if you do want more information, call the station's video line, studio business line at 252-756-3137. And once again, this is the U-Turn Show. I'm your host, Richard Taylor. And I do have a special guest today. My special guest is a wonderful woman who I had the pleasure to meet, Miss Sheila Arnold. She has an awesome testimony, and we're going to get right into it. How you doing today, Miss Arnold?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Brother Richard, for giving me this opportunity to share my story. I really appreciate you. Thank you. You're blessed.
You're welcome. And her story is, very heart wrenching. It's something that no mother wants to go through, and it's something that needs to be shed light on because it happens more than we know. So we're going to get right into the story. And actually, it was almost 2 years to the day that you were going to visit your son who was incarcerated at the Wabash Correctional Center in Indiana, correct?
Almost. I was taking, it wasn't my visitation day. I was taking.
Okay. Well, go into that
No.
ride. Give
Okay.
the people a little backstory on that ride and how that ride came about.
Okay. Okay. Well, my son, when I would go and visit him, he had another friend there that his sister would come and see him. So he said, Mom, both of y'all are coming up here. She's taking the bus. Instead of her taking that long ride on the bus, why don't you just start bringing her up here to see her brother? I said, okay, son, fine, I'll do that. And this went on maybe for about a month or so. And as Richard said, 2 years from this day, um, in that morning, that night, the young lady asked me, would I come and take her to see her brother at the prison? I didn't know if I was going to go or not. I hadn't decided. I said, I'll let you know. I'll let you know in the morning. And so I called her and texted her. I said, you know what? I want to honor my son, because we work together, try to do good things. And so I said, okay, yeah, I'll take you to see your brother. So we were on our way to Wabash Valley Prison, which is in Terre Haute, Indiana. And I lived in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
And probably, maybe about like an hour into the ride, her brother called her phone and told her there was a medical emergency in my son's room. Then he hung up and he called back and said that they were doing CPR on my son. So I was very hysterical, like it was unbelievable. It was just unbelievable what is going on here. And I called a girlfriend of mine, and girlfriends, I told them, start praying, just start praying. Because in my mind, they're actually doing CPR on my son or something like that. So when he hung up and then he called back and she said he didn't make it. And I just flipped out. And she said, you want to pull over? I said, no, I got to get to the prison. So I just cried and screamed like the whole way.
And you were driving?
And I was driving.
Okay.
Pulling over was not an option. I had to go see about my baby.
Okay. And before this, like he didn't have any medical problems. He didn't, tell you that he was feeling bad or anything of that nature?
No, no medical problems. He was saying he was looking forward to coming home and helping me. He said, you my queen, I can't wait to see you. He said, you just hanging there with me, Mom, and I appreciate you. I love you like that. So I can't wait to get out and come and help you out there, Mom.
All right. And so when you get to the prison, describe what was the protocol. What how did they greet you? How did they treat you?
Well, when I got to the prison, I went to the visitation desk in the visitation room, and they asked me, I was real quiet. They said, who would you like to see? And I told the lady, I said, I can't see him because he just died in your prison. And she's like, just hold up, wait a minute. And then she said, she went and called the people. So investigators, and I'm not sure the correct name of the people who were there, but I know it's like investigator, a few other couple of guys. And so anyway, they came to the visitation room and they took me into another room. But before that, she told me to go in another room, and I had to lay down because I was really hysterical and just down and out. And they probably didn't want other people to see me like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the investigator guys, they came in and they said, we're sorry about your loss, your son. And they said, first thing they said was, we don't see any wounds of like foul play like that. So, and they said another thing, second thing they said was, do you want us to take care of the funeral arrangements? And which, like, I've never went through anything like this, but I've heard stories after what I said. So I just heard the Holy Spirit say, get his body, get his body. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for it because it was a sudden death. And so I said, no, I'll take care of it. Now I just want to say that the Holy Spirit led me to say, give me my son's body, because now I've heard that they cremate and they get rid of the bodies and get rid of evidence. They take them. I mean, I've heard all kind of horrific stories. So anyway, I told them, it was in my spirit. I said, I want to see my son. And they said, ma'am, we don't do that in the prison. We do not do that. And I just collapsed on the floor. And I said, I want to see my son. I need to see my son's body. And then I guess they got afraid. I don't know what they were thinking or feeling, but they said, just a moment, let us go talk to the warden. So they went, talked to the warden, came back, and I don't know what was said, but they broke protocol. And they said, okay, we're going to let you see your son. So after a while, they brought a sheriff car around and took me around to the back of the prison, and there sat an ambulance. And I mean, the feeling that I had was undescribable. And I sat in the car, and the officer sat beside me. He was like a block of ice. The whole experience with them is like just really, really cold, just a block of ice. I sat there beside him and I just prayed, talked to God. I was shaking, nervous. I just asked him to just give me the strength. But I knew inside I had to see my son. So anyway, they said, you ready, Miss Arnold? I said, yes. So they took me over. I went inside. I'm just like, Lord, please give me strength. Please give me strength. And they unzipped the bag, and it was my son. And I didn't break down. I didn't have a fit, because I believe the Holy Spirit had a hold on me. So I'm gonna help you do this, Sheila. I'm gonna help you do this because you need to see your son. So his head was turned to the side, laying down. And that was curious in my spirit. Why is his head turned to one side, laying down? But I noticed a gash and blood on the side of his head, his forehead, and his eyes were wide open, and they were like, the whole thing was like purple and black, and his lips were purple and like black, and his face just didn't look right. And my first thought inside was, a person's not supposed to look like this when they just pass away, according to the phone call.
Yes.
So why does he look like that? And like I said, I never went through anything like this before. So anyway, I just wanted to look at him. I just walked and just looked, and they only just zipped it down, just to hear. I couldn't see anything.
The whole body.
Right. I couldn't see the whole body, what was in the bag or anything. And the paramedic people, they were sitting there just looking at me. They didn't say anything. They weren't sympathetic either. And I just was looking. I just wanted to look and just get him in my memory, that look, and see my baby and just try to see whatever I could see on him. And I told him, I said, I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to go. So I left out of the ambulance, and his body was still there. They didn't get a chance to whisk him away somewhere and do whatever they wanted. God allowed me a 1 in a million chance, for whatever reason, to be there on that particular morning to see my
what you
son's
saw,
body before he left the prison.
because you wasn't actually supposed to be going to visit.
No,
They could,
that was not my visitation week. I had seen him the week before. It was not my visitation week. Only the Heavenly Father knew.
and what kind of explanation did they give you as far as, the reason that your son passed?
Well, I would like to say, we got my son's body to Indianapolis, Indiana, and the first thing that the coroner there said, it looks like your son has been in a struggle. And I was allowed to see my son's body. They took maybe about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months for me to get the autopsy. But I had the opportunity to see my son's whole body, and that's my baby. He was no clothes on, totally naked. I said, that's my baby,
Mm-hmm.
I want to see.
So you didn't get to see the whole body until
the whole body would, yep. Mm-hmm. So I held tight onto the man. I said, just let me hold you real tight, because I know it's going to be so horrific. And I was scared. And I peeked through, and I just seen his body on this slab. It's, oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. And I went in there. My son had several stab wounds all up and down his body. And when where they had his neck turned, he had wounds over there too.
And they tried to tell you that he stabbed himself to death.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, he had a cellmate. And the cellmate said that there was a knife. My son had a knife in that. But the cellmate said when he found him dead that morning, that he flushed it down the toilet because he was scared.
So the cellmate said that the cellmate.
Well, that's the thing about it. In the autopsy report, he didn't say that he's seen him or tried to stop him from stabbing himself. He didn't describe any of that.
Mm-hmm.
He just said that my son it was a knife in his hand. And the autopsy said that they found drugs in my son's system.
Okay.
And I said, okay, but how did all of these stab wounds get on him? Why was his body, he was sitting up that morning. It said that the inmate said that he was sitting up in his bunk the morning that he found him.
And so the inmate was the only person supposedly in the cell with your son when he passed. And the inmate didn't say, he didn't give any description on what he thought happened. What was he asleep during all of this time, or how?
Well, he said in the report that my son was yelling. He said that he was banging his head against the wall and said that things was crawling on him. So I suppose that they're saying, like, the drugs, like there was a reaction. And then the cellmates on the outside, it says in report that they were yelling, man, be quiet, man, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Well, I went over the autopsy report myself. And in the autopsy report, with my son stabbing himself up, banging his head, yelling, screaming, doing all this kind of stuff in the report, there is no report of any guard anywhere, no report. When they last seen him, did they go and try to calm him down? Nothing. No report. Or if he did, which they suggested that, that was a self-inflicted wounds, basically, he killed himself. That's what they're saying. Okay. Basically he did everything to himself. The drugs killed him and he stabbed his whole self up, back and front, and he had compression wounds on his back. He had wounds on his back, and I've been asking, trying to get the full understanding of autopsy report.
Mm-hmm. And that autopsy report came from the prison. You didn't get your own autopsy report done.
Yes, I did. I got my own private autopsy report. And I have a problem with that because the company that I paid to do the private autopsy report, they made a decision already and agreed with the prison before they even had, like, you have to take pictures of the body before you do anything. They never received those photos. They never received the photos. But they made a decision that and agreed with
before they even got the photos of the body. They already made a decision.
They made a decision. Yes,
he died from self-inflicted.
Before they didn't even see him. Later on, which I just been really going out of my head, sad, a lot of crying, and dreaming about my son, and so many different things would just trigger, depression and stress. And then I had a dream, and my son, he was laying down, and the private autopsy lady, she was in my dream, and the dream said, it was like this lady was fussing at her, said, "You didn't look up under his fingernails. You didn't look up under his fingernails." So I just said, okay, I got strength. I said, let me check this out again. So I called her back. This is after decision and everything. And I had to even talk to a lawyer. And so he got, some paperwork, but he still did not get like an EMS report. He didn't get anything from the prison, nothing. Then he decided there was nothing he could do.
That was the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's one thing when something happens in a prison, they already have the certain things put in place where they just tell the story, keep everything on the wraps, and kind of push everything along. We're going to go to station break real quick in about 10 seconds, but y'all stay with us so we can continue to hear this story. Once again, this is the U-Turn Show on 106.9 FM. Please stay with us.
There are some liability considerations in lawsuits that you need to be aware of when you do charitable activities.
That's attorney David Gibbs Jr., and this is the Legal Alert.
Pastor Tim's church was wanting to help a family in their community by giving their home a complete makeover. Pastor called the Christian Law Association to ask about any liability concerns they should consider in reaching out with this kindness. As with any such undertaking, liability exposure will largely depend on the scale and breadth of the project. Remember, there is liability, and it doesn't go away just because you're doing something kind and gracious. Generally speaking, the church will want to make sure that, one, they have the family's written consent to undergo everything they do at the project. Number two, that the activity is covered by the church's insurance, or that the church hires competent contractors if necessary. And number three, the activity does not jeopardize the church's tax-exempt status. Remember, you can only do things that further your exempt status of religious, charitable, educational.
Our free newsletter addresses lots of issues like the ones we've been discussing today. It's an invaluable tool. Why not sign up for it now at christianlaw.org. christianlaw.org.
We all have the same problem. This is Ken Ham, author of the eye-opening book 6 Days and Church Compromised. Yesterday, we learned that critical race theory teaches that what's on the outside, our shade of skin, is really all that matters. Those with light skin just can't help being racist, and those with dark skin can't be racist. But the Bible teaches that racism isn't ultimately about skin shade, it's about our sinful heart. Because all have sinned, anyone can be a racist. Prejudice and partiality aren't sins that only some people can commit. Anyone can sin against the Lord and others in this way. Every person has the same ultimate problem, sin, and we all have the same ultimate solution, the Lord Jesus, who died for our sin.
Find resources to help you build a more biblical worldview at AnswersRadio.com and subscribe to receive free email insights from Ken Ham when you visit us at AnswersRadio.com.
You are listening to Awesome Radio.
Lord, I hope this ain't too late for me to die up in these streets. Oh Lord, can you help me?
Welcome back once again to the U-Turn Show, 106.9 WBIS FM on your FM dial. We are here with our special guest today, Sheila Arnold, telling about her son's, unfortunate passing and all of the inconsistencies from his death in Wabash Correctional Facility in Indiana. So just real quick, just let me read a couple of these comments from some of our listeners. Doug Brody said a mother's pain, very heartbreaking story. Edward Harris says, I hear strength within your testimony. And Edward Harris also said this is a need to hear message. And of course, Brody said they weren't expecting you. And also, of course, they will say anything to defend the state, but every report is accurate in their eyes. And that's what we were talking about before we left. And I thank you guys for commenting. And as far as the different inconsistencies, did you ever address those with the prison officials or anyone within the state to try to get them to see, how things weren't adding up?
No, I didn't, because I was consistently talking with and trusting in the private autopsy, the company that did the private autopsy. And I needed them. I told them, I said, I need you to explain to me, tell me, because it was a trusted person, that had told me about them. And a matter of fact, about maybe 2 weeks ago, I called the private autopsy company person and asked them to please explain. Well, let me back up a little bit. Okay, I was telling you about the attorney, and he said, we believe the cellmate, point blank. We believe all the cell persons. Okay, so the photos of his body never showed up. And then when I went back to Indiana and I called them and I said, do you guys have, from the dream, do you have the photos? Where are the photos of my son's body? Because the private autopsy and the lawyer, they have been going back and forth saying, oh, you got them. No, we sent them to you. And I said, well, they said, they had me just going in circles. I'm like, where are the photos of my son's body? So anyway, long story short is that when I brought it back up, she said, well, if you find the photos, I'll do it over and I'll do it for free. So I called the attorney and I said, do you have the photos? And they said, yeah, we have them. So this time period, my son's body photos were sitting up under dust all this time. And so anyway, got the photos, got them, I sent them to her, the USBs and all of that. And that's when I asked her. She said, if you have any questions. And I said, I do. So I called and she said, well, you know what? I can't do it right now because I don't have paperwork with me and all that. She said, I'll call you back tomorrow, that next day. Today, I have not gotten a phone call or anything. And I also, it caused me to get in a car accident because I was supposed to, the lawyer, we were supposed to have a Zoom call because, see, I was in Texas, a Zoom call, and they never did the call. They sent me all these horrible photos, all of this. I had put the paperwork over here because I wanted to read where they had it says blunt force trauma to the head, brain edema.
That's what the autopsy report said.
Yeah, yes. I must have misplaced the paperwork.
Yeah, but I remember you were telling me that those were some of the results.
Yes. And he had several wounds, like in his head, his body. I mean, it was like a mutilation thing. But I was like, I need somebody to explain all this to me. And then they did. I laid in my room and I read every bit of it, even to where how they sliced his brain up that looks like pages in a book. I had to read all of this gory stuff. And I cried. I tried to work because I had to work. I got in a car accident and messed my car up. I'm saying what I'm saying is I had to deal with this by myself.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I know just from listening to you is that you were not by yourself, because you are a strong believer in God and the Lord Jesus Christ. How much has your faith, helped you, dealing with all this and still, having the courage to speak about it and continue to fight for justice for your son?
Well, of course, I'm a believer. I pray, I fast, and I just continually would fall on my knees to God and cry and scream to him, go into my closet and just pray for strength. A lot of times I wanted to give up, just like a lot of people would. And I felt like I cannot live my life, God, without my child. I can't go and have a good time. I can't clap and, no. I couldn't do any of that. And it was like a voice that said, Sheila, mourn, do whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do. And I just couldn't happy my way out of it. The cut was just too deep. Seeing his body, and then the other thing that God had to help me with, because the enemy, like I said, he would attack my mind. Like, Sheila, your son was sitting up. They were beating him up, and he died in that prison all by himself. Just sat there through the night, because there was rigor mortis. His body was in rigor mortis when I seen it.
Yeah,
so I have no idea.
You said you got the call that they were giving him, CPR on the way there, but you said when you got there, it looked like he had been dead.
Yeah, there was no way. They must have been crazy to try to do a CPR on a rigor mortis body. There's nothing else in the report. No EMS report, nothing about the guards, no resuscitation, nothing. What happened?
Normally in the prison, guards make their rounds every 15 minutes in every jail I've been in, or at least every 30 minutes. So, and those cells that they were in, were they like 2-man closed cells, like with the cell door that closed at night?
I'm not really sure, but on my Facebook page, I have it where you can actually see him on the phone. And I don't know, maybe it's a day room. I'm not sure what it is, but you can see cells.
Have the cells where anytime that you are in a 2-man cell, the guard's supposed to come every 15 minutes and actually peek and actually look in the cell to make sure that there is nothing, awry, like everybody is well. So if your son was sitting up and he had been sitting up and he was doing all of that during the night, a guard would have known or would have seen something happen, unless the guard was involved or they intentionally turned their head away, even seeing him like that, because the way you're describing it is, he had been dead probably the night before. And there's no way with prison regulations that would be happening without guard cooperation or guard misconduct, because they have to bring medical attention to someone who's in distress in that situation. So
yes, because the inmate said that he got quiet. So what time did he get quiet? because he said he was trying to watch the game. What time is that? And he got quiet. He was like, he said he's seen his feet laying down. So he got quiet. How did he end up sitting up? And I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of nurses, and they said in the report, it said that there was like a tichia, which once again, I have no idea what that is. But as nurses, they said it didn't make sense because the blood flows down.
All right. 1 second. We're coming up on our last station break, but we're going to be right back in 1 minute. Stay with us, please. U-Turn Radio.
Hollywood Live with Tanya Hart.
Travis Scott is stepping up to help the families of those who died at his Astroworld Festival on Friday, offering to pay funeral costs and extending even more help for those affected. Now, sources close to Travis say that he will be fully covering any and all funeral costs that might have come about for the families of the 8 people who died at his concert over the weekend. The BetterHelp resources will amount to one-on-one virtual therapy sessions with trained licensed professionals working with the organization. On top of this, BetterHelp will also team up with the National Alliance of Mental Illness for people who may need more help than just virtual. Now, in addition to those who died, dozens more were injured to varying degrees and hospitalized, and some of those people have already started to file the lawsuits against Travis and Live Nation. And for all these stories and more, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tanya Hollywood and at AURN.com.
Fish Fry Friday for veterans. Friday, November 12th, 11 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Free to all veterans. 2531 South Memorial Drive, Greenville. Awesome Radio presents our 2nd annual Fish Fry Friday for veterans. This Friday, November 12th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., 11 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. This free community event is for veterans only. Our way of saying thank you for serving our country, and we will be checking for veteran status. Safe drive-through service. Stay in your vehicle. We will come to you. Delivery service available for those veterans who cannot get away. Please call right now to get on the delivery list. 252-756-3137. That's 252-756-3137. And we will be checking for veteran status. Fish Fry Friday for veterans only. Friday, November 12th. 11 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Follow the aroma of fresh fried fish. 2531 South Memorial Drive, Greenville. This is another Awesome Radio free community event. Thank you for growing with us. 106.9 Awesome Radio.
Awesome Radio 106.9 WBIS LP.
Welcome back to Awesome Radio 106.9 FM WBIS awesomeradio.org. We are back from our station break here with Miss Sheila Arnold and A Mother's Cry for Jesting, explaining once again the inconsistencies with the death of her son in an Indiana State Prison, Wabash Correctional Facility to be exact. Just to read a quick comment. My father, Roger Taylor, says, all things are possible to them that believe it. God is near to the brokenhearted. Christ is your confidence. So I thank you for that word of encouragement. And you were saying something about what you were talking to nurses, and they were saying something about, the way he was sitting up. Could you explain what you were trying to say real quick?
Well, since I could not get any answers from the professionals that wrote this out, they didn't talk to me. I had to seek help elsewhere to get an understanding because, like I said, I couldn't sleep. It was always in my head. And when certain professional people started to read through, one thing I didn't mention was I didn't know anything about this. They said it's like a possible fracture of the hyoid bone, probable pre-mortem artifact of intubation. Of course, I'm like, okay, now I know what fracture means. What is all that about? So a nurse kind of explained to me that there is a bone that we have in our neck that she said, long story short, basically that it can own that fracture could only happen through strangulation or hanging. And like maybe like the cartilage was broken in his neck. And I'm not sure about the intubation, but intubation is you only do that when you're trying to save someone's life.
Okay.
And like once again, that's inconsistent. He was in Rick and Morris when I seen him, and they were, supposedly that he died that morning.
Yeah, and when you said the hyoid bone, I had to look that up too because I'm just like you. But that is the bone right here, right, like right under.
Yes, in the back, yeah,
right there. So that and that is consistent, like you said, with strangulation. So or hanging.
Yeah, and they said that he was the cellmate said he was banging his head and all that. He, you can't just do that. It has to be pressure.
Yeah,
some sort of.
With the inmate testimony, once again, they use inmates to kind of go along with their story. Meaning, okay, well, inmate, you better say this, or say he was doing this, because once again, that inmate is in prison too, so he's subject to the same type of abuse that actually that prison is notorious for. You've actually told me about several complaints from that prison. And actually, I think the same lady who interviewed you, Miss J. Renee, actually just interviewed another prisoner at that prison right now who is going on a hunger strike because of the conditions.
Yes.
And you told me about another inmate also who was killed.
Yes.
A while back.
Yes. Once I put my story on Facebook when it happened, a mother contacted me and told me that her son was killed in that prison, and that there was a civil investigator, lawyer looking into the case, and someone from Wabash was going to testify, and he got killed. They killed him.
An inmate that was going to testify to
who killed her son. Yeah, about killing her son. And right today, she let it go because she did not want any other inmates to get killed in that prison. She just let it go.
And we do have a caller calling in. Just 1 second.
Yes.
Good evening, caller. Welcome to 106.9 Awesome Radio, the U-Turn Show. You are on the air.
Good evening. First of all, I just want to definitely send my condolences to this courageous mother who has decided to share her story with the world. You definitely have my thoughts and prayers that lie with you. I believe that you have enough information to continue your quest to find the truth out. Even in this live talk show, you have the ability to forward this information to whomever you see fit that will assist you with getting exposure with this awful, heinous, what I want to say is a crime. There are so many inconsistencies in the information that this correctional facility has given you, and these officers also need to be held accountable for their lack of governing while doing their job. I believe that you can take this information, not only that you have with you, but from this live show, and I believe that you should forward it to each and every individual that you feel will be able to assist you. Once again, I am grieving, I'm crying with you, and I definitely have you in my thoughts and prayers. And I know that because you are one of God's chosen, you will get the victory. Thank you for letting me share. And continue to be strong, Mom.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla, for your sentiments and also your encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so and I feel the same way. because there are so many individuals out there who can see right through that, the cover up, as I would call it, because one who has been in prisons, in jails, and several times, I've seen, guard mistreatment. I've seen, guard vindictiveness. I've seen guard neglect, and guard the irregard for human life in the prison system, and that's what it seems like here. And with the information that they're giving you and also not giving you, you definitely have concrete evidence of something that is being withheld from you in the public. So once again, I commend you too for sharing this and bringing light to the situation.
I have to share my story. I believe, like I said, it's not a coincidence. It's like it's a needle in a haystack that I would be there to actually, no one sees their child. They say, okay, we're going to take them out of the prison, come see them. That never happens. So I feel that God has put me in this place and he's giving me the strength, because so many men and women have died in prisons because of the abuse and the mistreatment and the lack of management and accountability of the warden and the guards. And it's happening right now as we speak. And I've had so many other mothers call me and tell me about the abuse and the death, and they got no compensation. They got no answers. I mean, lie after lie. It's incredible that they get away with this. And these drug overdoses, well, they know that it's coming into prison. No help.
Yeah,
or they don't even take to see, like, okay, since the drugs is out here, okay, is he a drug addict? Or is this a department of correction? Is he addicted? Is he, if you're taking care of him, and the taxpayers' money that's going into it?
Yeah,
the accountability, responsibility is like nowhere.
And that's what the caller mentioned, is the accountability of that there's no one to hold them accountable, because the prison industry and the prison system is governed by itself. So as one commenter said earlier, they're always going to protect themselves no matter what. And the people inside have no advocate, because there's no one to see, or no one to hear, or no one to them in there to protect them from whatever they may face. And just to get it straight now, did you actually leave with your son's body?
Did I actually what? I'm sorry.
Did you leave with the body? Like, did you take the body? Because I know that you mentioned that the prison offered to keep the body and do the funeral.
Well, yeah, they wanted to do that. No, once I left out of the ambulance, my children, I have other kids, they asked me, it's like, do you want us to come get you at the prison? I said, no. I just drove home silently, just quiet. I took her home, and I just wanted to take all of it in. And parts of me wanted to not even go home, wanted to run away. Like, nope, see y'all, I'm out of here. I can't do this. But they took the body, left in an ambulance. See, they had to take it and do the autopsy. So they took it. Yeah, they hadn't even done, that's what I'm saying. They hadn't even left to go anywhere. They just wanted it, probably so they could cremate it or do whatever they want to. But they took it, they did their autopsy, and then because I said I wanted the body, they shipped it to Indiana. Yeah, and I wanted to, I found that paper I was talking about. Like, here it has blunt force head and neck injuries, multiple FOCAL scalp and facial contusions with edema, brain edema, blunt force upper and lower extremity injuries, fossil purple contusions, bilateral upper extremities, purple contusions on the posterior and lateral lower legs, right fossa, conjunctitia, and I think that's something what they were saying about the eye, multiple contusions of the upper and lower extremities. Just, just
And so
some things I can't even, really pronounce or understand. But for me to read that, how did he do all this to himself?
yeah, and there's no way possible, because the first thing you read was brain edema, and that says cerebral fluids building up around the brain that causes swelling. Swelling or inflammation is part of the body's natural response to injury. So once again, that goes consistent with somebody beating him, in the head. There's no, way that, someone can do that to themselves, even if they try to claim that he was banging his head up against the wall. That's just a cover up to show, okay, well, yeah, he was acting crazy, so he did this to themselves. This is, plain, just you reading all of those things, the multiple contusions to his extremities. Those are not stab wounds. Those are contusions. You get contusions when you are hit, when you are beaten. So, once again, that's concrete evidence right there that, it doesn't line up. And also you mentioned that they didn't put a time of death on the
outside. Time of death. And they even messed up on the report here. They have it. I looked it up. They have like the incident, the occurrence date, 11/9/19, and they put it in military time, 19 :45, like 1900 hours. You know what time that is? They got on here 7 o'clock at night. 5,
yeah.
At night.
At night. But then they claimed to be giving them CPR in the morning.
Well, when the young man called, that's what he said. I don't, it's like, okay, how does that?
And so the young man that called and that was with the girlfriend.
That was his sister.
His sister. I'm sorry. Have you kept contact with them, or did they ever, did he?
They gave their condolences, and me and her were, we're friends, and she's like, I cried with you, Sheila, and that's it. I mean, that's it. It's just the missing pieces, and one of my cries is, it's like a lawyer. I prayed to God, and he helped me to put in what they call a pro se, because there's a 2-year statute of limitation, or else guess what? All is lost. Mm-hmm. All is lost. But God helped me to put that pro se in to beat this date here. And now I have to, through the grace of God, I need a lawyer to look at the case, pick up the case, at least get the information that is not there. Don't just take at face value like the other lawyer did. Oh, we believe the inmates. It's too much missing information. Mm-hmm. I deserve that. I deserve that, because if you really dig deep, you never know what you might find. And this is not just for me, but it's for other inmate mothers and the inmates that are going in there. And if I can get my story out and they can turn a leaf on some things, and I want to keep pushing, I want to keep going and let them know that we are aware of what's going on, which they already know. But I'd like to bring unity to that, bring all of our stories together to show a consistency, what is going on. And I would like to put it to legislation. I would like to put it to the wardens, like however many, it's like, get the mothers, get the stories, get the faces, and shed light on what you are allowing in your prisons that is hurting. My son had children. Now, if he gets, okay, he's gone, okay. But those children, since the state, all that money that's going in for their fine homes, cars, whatever they're doing, partying, his daughter is suffering. The money that, they need that money.
Yes.
He was in their custody.
Yeah. And what would you say, because we're drawing into the radio show, but what would you say to people who want to help, or how can people who see this show and may have the resources or may have the know-how or the knowledge, the legal knowledge, or the power to help you, how can they reach out to help you and get in touch with you, and maybe once again, like you said, put those stories together, coalition of mothers who this happened to, and form a union? How would someone be able to get in touch with you if they do want to assist you in your quest for justice?
Yes, my Facebook page is Sheila Arnold. It's spelled as you see on the screen. And if you would like to email me, it's Sheila Arnold 429@gmail.com.
And once again, that's Sheila Arnold
on my Facebook.
at gmail.com.
Yeah, 429.
So,
yes.
If someone has heard this story and sees as clear as I do, that there's certainly something wrong with the determination, the final results, or the final labeling of this incident, and you want to help, please reach out, because no one person can do this alone. We talk about prison reform, we talk about all of these things, legislations, but if there's not enough numbers to put pressure on the people that have the power to make the change, or even put pressure on the people to make them change, then we're going to keep hearing these stories time and time. I can go down a list of names I know personally who have lost, people who lost their lives in police custody, because I was almost one as well. But this show is not about me, so I won't go into that incident. But this mother right here has basically weathered the storm, where she is able to talk about this harrowing incident without being emotionally wrecked, because I know she's been through it. I've been talking to her, for about 2 weeks straight, and I know how passionate she is about this subject, about other people, about helping other people avoid these losses. She can't get her son back, unfortunately, but we can come together and help other people avoid this situation. So we're gonna coming to the close of the U-Turn Radio Show. We thank you guys for listening. Join us next week. And if anybody wants to help Sheila Arnold, but we will keep the broadcast live on Facebook.
Lord, I need you to smile on me. Lord, I'm bleeding. Tell me where you want me to go.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. So and what would you say to other mothers who are going through this?
Well, first of all, one thing that I would say to other mothers, okay, if you feel and know that something is not right, or the complaints of your child, document those complaints. Document everything that's going on with your child, the time, the days, the phone calls, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You might need that. You might need that.
You actually said that one time he told you that if anything ever happens to him,
yes,
the guards did it.
Yeah. He said the guards had something to do with it. He told me, he said, Mama, if something ever happens to me, the guards had something to do with it. He said they don't like me.
And that's evident, because once again, there's no way that he can go through all of that and experience all of that, even if it was true, where he was yelling and banging, there's no way that a guard doesn't react to that. So that,
and it's supposed to be his responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. When you are when they have your body in custody and you are a ward of the state, is your safety is in there. And actually, I think, well, I don't know, but in North Carolina, it's now called the Department of Public Safety. Now, it was called the Department of Corrections, but now it's called the Department of Public Safety. And so, if those who are in position and in power to protect those who are in their custody are not doing so, then we definitely need people like yourself to continue to put the pressure on them. Because it's obvious to me, from just a little bit, and I would, later I would actually, maybe even want to email of that just that little description that you've given me, so I can really dig deep and really look up what those words and those.
Yes, you mean this right here? What I read.
Yeah, you were telling me about the brain edema and
yes, I'll get that.
And all of that, because I am one who will look into it and be able to take those medical terms and put them in the layman's terms and like, wait a minute, they said he died of this, but y'all just want to overlook all of this. How did this happen? How did he get fluid around the brain? So definitely, and I didn't, we didn't discuss this earlier during the week we were talking,
right.
Because if so, I would have been asked for those, those documents, because I'm one as well who cries for justice.
Yes.
And once again, when I see something that's not right, I take up the cause. So
yes, it's untapering it. It's like if someone might know a retired forensic person, they might know a retired, or somebody is just willing to look at the, like a pathologist, or it's like, a lawyer, somebody, because, you have things like this when you can't get the right answers from the right people. You go outside, because they're not the only one that have the knowledge and understanding. Like you just said, you can look this up, you can find out, and you can explain it in layman's terms. And the technology, there's Google, and also college students. I could give the autopsy if a professor, hey, I need y'all to dissect this. What's your theories? What do you think? What's the possibilities of this? What's the possibilities of that? Well, in the time frame, it's like, I'm kind of old school a little bit. I watch Columbo. He turns over every stone.
Yes.
And he traps them. I need a Columbo. But like you said, the unity, I need a collective of people. And to say, you know what? You guys are straight up lying, like this case, that case, get all those cases where, because I've read and other mothers have told me about suspicious cases, but they never got any answers. And you know what, that right there really, Richard, is inhumane. How can you do a mother like that? I met a young lady in Indiana. It was her aunt. Her son was killed in Wabash. And guess what? The mother couldn't take it. She killed herself. It's mental abuse that we go through. When the enemy brings that thought back and shoots it into your head, how your child suffered and was beat up. And they take them, like I've read different stories of inmates where they take them like in a room and they just beat them up and they say, oh, he fell, or this, that, and the other happened, or they don't give them their medication on purpose. Let somebody have a seizure on the floor. So see, I would like to be God's will, a collective of these stories and the faces collectively, and start to present them, and not just in Indiana, everywhere, and just roll it down and say, okay, look at this, and address the taxpayers. This is where your tax, this is what's going on. We need you guys to speak up also. It's us as a community. Do you really want to turn your back? You really want to hide your face? Because guess what? It might not happen to you, but guess what? Your sister, your mother, your brother, somebody else that you know, they are hurting terribly. And I'll tell you this, what happened to my son and what I'm dealing with, like people say to strengthen me, and that's God. But a lot of people run from that pain. They don't want to come alongside you because they want to feel good.
Yeah.
They want to feel good. They don't want to, no. They want to avoid the pain.
Yeah. And it's not.
I don't get a lot of. Nobody wants to hear. Nobody wants to, because maybe I'll bring you down, or you don't want to listen or hear. But I'm just telling the truth. It's a hard thing.
And it's not easy, but when you have a heart for people, you can feel like, because when I talk to you, I feel the pain. I feel the pain, but I want to help you bear that pain. I want to let you know, okay, well, now you're not alone. I can't put myself in your shoes, but I'm there. Like, talk about it. Lean on it. Let's get it out. How can I help you? Because there's I have a mother, and I know that mother's love for their child. I put my mother through so much in and out of those situations, so I can imagine how you're feeling. So that's the humanity in people like us, like me and you, who are able to stand with people.
Yeah, because I do need you. I need, what's going on now, because it's also the pain that I feel is also the pain that the Father feels. The injustice, because He cares for us. When I cry, when mothers cry, He feels the pain, like, and so He sends people like you, Jay, Renee, different people, to say, hey, look, we're here for you. We understand, we got you. And you can't keep this stuff inside. Or else, guess what? As strong as you think, like you say, oh, you're strong Christian, this, that. Well, you know what? I'm at home going crazy, because guess what? You ain't checked on me. You don't know nothing. I'm just saying. But I'm saying, thank God for you guys, because it has to come out. It has to be talked about. It doesn't say that I'm weak because I talk about it. The Word of God says, that stuff will fester up in you. And that's how people do commit suicide. A phone call, or it's like, hey, how you doing? Or send something or whatever, you need to get away. Go to Hurricane Harbor or Six Flags or something. Here, I'm gonna pay for it, or something like that. I mean, it's all very real. And I do understand that some people, it is hard to understand things if it hasn't happened to you. If it hasn't happened to you, I do understand that, but I just want people to just, maybe send a prayer up, a wave, like on the Facebook page, or just maybe once every now and then, hey, Sheila, how's it going? Or something like that. I mean, we can easily get caught up, and I know no one is perfect, and especially these days in the pandemic, boy, people dying, everybody has so much going on. But if the Holy Spirit brings someone or something to your mind, we really need to try to act on that. But I do understand I'm not the only one going through, and I've been there for a whole lot of people, a whole lot of years. And I had to learn a whole lot of things. And right now, it's not about me at all. We got men and women in these prisons right now. Boy, the pain is being inflicted on them. I mean, serious pain. Somebody right now wondering, mothers tell me, Sheila, I'm scared. I'm scared. My son might not make it out. I'm scared, Sheila. Please help. People were calling me, help me, help me, help me. It's like, I don't know how yet.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna figure it out though, because I mean, just and even like before you, I never heard of Wabash. Well, yeah, I don't know. Oh, what was it? How do you say it?
Wabash, like
Wabash.
Wabash. Wabash Valley Prison.
Wabash. So you have these little towns way out in the hills or the mountains, and it just breeds that, okay, well, we're way out here by ourselves. We can do anything. Nobody's watching us, and if so, we can say this happened. He threatened us, or oh no, he hung himself, or he stabbed himself, or he overdosed. There's so many things that they can just orchestrate a story, and the story will be true because who else is going to refute it? Everybody from the administrators, the wardens, the CEOs, the medical staff, everybody's on the same page. So we have to have some kind of independent checks and balance system where, all right, we know what you're saying, but we're going to bring these people in right here with no obligation to you, with no financial, with nothing to gain or nothing to lose by saying, oh no, you guys are lying. We need some of that. And, I don't know what, and I'm like you said, I want to help. I don't know what to do, but to talk about it, and then maybe somebody with power or, with influence can come and say, okay, well, let me look into this. Let me, once again, and we know who is the great, the great I am, which is God. So, he's going to have the final say, like you were talking about earlier. Like, okay, well, they're going to get justice one way or the other.
One way or the other.
So, we just have to keep the faith and pray that, as it is in heaven, it'll be done on earth. We call down the justice from heaven to be done on earth to these people who are continuously committing these atrocities in these institutions with no retribution. So we just got to keep the pressure on them. Keep scripture that says, "Cry loud and spare not." And it's also a scripture that talks about a woman who keeps going to the judge for justice and give me justice. And the judge said, well, I'm not going to give it to you because I'm righteous. I'm going to give you justice because you keep bothering me. And so, if we look at those two scriptures, that should give us, the motivation and encouragement to, to not give up, to keep speaking, about Rock. And what's your son's real name? Because
his real name is Brandon Lewis.
Brandon Lewis. Brandon Lewis. Keep speaking Brandon Lewis and nickname Rock. We're going to rock for justice.
Rock for justice.
We're going to rock for justice because, just once again, my mind is going back to, the autopsy description that you just read for me. That is my first time hearing. Like, that's obvious. All of those terms are obvious. That's not consistent with what they said happened. So, we definitely have to continuously, keep the and I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to call up there tomorrow. Like, what? No, who?
And I want to say, not only like in the report, I'd like to know how does this fit in where it's like they have the dates and the guards that do have his sheet, the guards that were working that night, when he was
so
there
you
and
have
everything.
information
But
as well?
it's two. That's all I have are like the names. But there are 2 or 3 that they said that they no longer work there since that incident. Why is that? And then I also heard, like some people that was in the prison that they started to ante up their security.
Some people that were in the prison?
Yeah, like he had, like we had, like another friend that he grew up with, different people that was saying, that call other people said, they were changing a little bit of their security, I guess beefing up security or they were doing something. I believe that, they know that they're guilty. They know that they're guilty. And it's like, I tell you, just getting information and pushing to get that information, the EMS, who did they come? What about the intubation? Well, how did that happen? What I mean, or did they do that trying to, save a Rick and Morris body? What, the bone, and the timing, the run sheet. Somebody, it's like, I need that run sheet. Things like that. Video.
Intubation, that's brain. It says is a procedure that's used when you can't breathe on your own. Yeah. So that means they tried to put something down his throat, maybe to
that's what I'm saying.
Tube down your throat,
yeah,
make it easier for you to breathe. So therefore, if they're putting tubes down the throat, that's consistent with that bone being broken, the hyoid bone that you just talked about.
But he was already dead. There's nothing. And they said on there's no record on resuscitation. And the Rick and Morris when I got there. So another question. How long would it take my son, when I seen him, to look like that? How many hours? I got there about like maybe 9, 10 in the morning. And I think maybe 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning is, when the young man said, like, he woke up and he looked at my son. He was going to touch him and tell him, hey, man, we missed breakfast, around 6 or 7 in the morning. So how long from that time to the time that I got there, how long would it take his eyes to actually be total black, his mouth to be total black?
No.
How long would it take? I'm just saying, I need medical
definitely people. More than a couple of hours.
Huh?
Definitely more than a couple of hours. And like I said, like all of the statements that you keep saying the inmate, his roommate is making still doesn't make sense. If you are like, you don't wake up, like when you go, if you're in the cell, the doors pop when you go, when it's time for breakfast. So you don't miss breakfast. You don't. So all of this, hey man, I start to wake him up. No, that inmate knew something was wrong for a whole while, or even they may have even taken that inmate out of the cell, and then told him what to say while whatever happened to your son happened.
Everybody knows the system by now. 2021, everybody knows that they are rotten liars. They're liars, and they hide.
Have you tried to talk to anyone, like maybe at the governor's level, or I don't,
no, see, it's like, I live out of town now. So it's like, there's certain things that, I was just so distraught with certain things that I just didn't know, or, dealing with. And, I just didn't know. And the thing about it is, when I was in Indiana, I told you about my sister that had passed. I actually met the governor in a barbecue place in Indiana, and I gave the governor a card of mine because I have a nonprofit in Indiana and I wanted help. I gave him my card, and there was a police officer that was sitting there with us, and the police officer said, I remember your story, for my sister being murdered at that time. And never heard from him. I don't think he cares. But I didn't know anything about, who to contact and everything. It was just.
And I was just thinking,
I was just a mess, horrific mess, trying to be
strong. It's hard to grieve and fight for justice.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking about when I asked you that question.
Oh no, I could have. Somebody could have done it. It was just so much going on. And so many hurting people, his other, brothers and sisters and family and people, because they knew Rock and they knew his heart. He might have made some mistakes, but he really had a good heart. When he was a young boy, he got baptized maybe about 3 or 4 times, couldn't stay away from the water. He went to church. He said, Mom, I went to church when he was in the prison. He said, Mom, I went to church. I was reading my Bible and I sent him a song. Then he sent me a song about driving my mama crazy.
Yeah.
He was a funny guy. He, had a good heart.
And that's I mean, we all make mistakes. So, actually 2 years ago to this day, I was sitting in a jail cell, awaiting innocent for probation violation. And God stepped in. So, we all make mistakes and we all go through our different struggles, but that doesn't discount who he was. Once again, that's a good person because we all make mistakes for whatever reason. Some people, mistakes linger on. Some people, like, I'm still paying for some of my mistakes right now to this day. So, we definitely don't get to shoot. What they say, Paul was in prison. They a lot of the people, Jeremiah was in prison. So,
exactly.
That has nothing to do with the character of a man. And that's another thing, though. That's why I think we don't see enough avocation, because when things happen to people that are in custody or in prison, people automatically assume that, hey, well, they were bad people, so whatever happened to them happened. He shouldn't have been in there. But that could be further from the truth, because just because you're in there doesn't mean you're guilty, first of all, but also just because you're in there, you're already paying your debt to society.
Yes, absolutely.
You're supposed to be beaten. You don't supposed to be mistreated.
Yeah, he wasn't.
The punishment is being away from society, being away from
exactly. That is the punishment.
Yeah, not okay. We got you in here. Now we're going to beat you down even more. We're going to degrade you. We're going to demean you. We're going to dehumanize you. We're going to starve you. We're going to, So that's the thing. I think that a lot of people don't realize. When these things happen, they always revert to, well, why was he in there? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And if we've been talking for about 2 weeks, I never once asked, why he was in there. And I don't want to know, because this is the main issue. The treatment of him while he was in there.
Why he was in there. Yes, absolutely. And the ones that still remain in there, and the young men that don't even have a clue. If you get caught up and you go to a prison like that, and that's the other thing that I wanted to do, is, if it be God's will, is put something together. And, like I have colored, photos, of course, of my son's body. And I like to go hard with some of these young guys out here. Say, you know what? Here, look at this. Look, this is what could possibly happen to you if you go to prison. This is what happened to my son and a lot of other ones. Do you want to be,
So you've actually shown them, or you said you would like?
Actually, for me, I've tried to avoid them. I have a box, right over here, and I try to avoid them because it hurts real bad. But it's like when I flip through and try to see the writings, like a couple of times I kind of seen it. And it just, it brings the hurt all back over again. But I have to have them because, once again, I'm reaching out for help. Somebody else need to look at these, and what some other people have, and said, Sheila, look at that. Look at his back. Look at his body. Ain't no way he could have did this to himself. What happened? And then it's like, okay, at one time, and see, I have to talk to an autopsy person. Like, is that something that you do during an autopsy? Do you slice up somebody's body during an autopsy? Because I know they do all kind of stuff to the body.
I think they do.
Yeah. So, what part did you do? What part did the knife do? Because they said self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
He inflicted himself. The celly threw the knife down. Okay, so what part did you do? What parts did he stab himself up, and how did he get it? And what about the back? It's just
with those photos, the question I'll do what did come to mind was, when were they taken? Were they taken at the autopsy, or did they take any photos before they did any cutting on them? Or how soon after the death or the discovery of death were the photos taken? Do they put that in there?
Let's see. Remember, like the photos that I didn't know that the lawyer had, that they kept saying, those were the original ones. They kept saying that they didn't have them. They didn't have them. They couldn't get them. They didn't receive them. But either they got them eventually, or they I don't know. They didn't want to give them to the lady. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. I just know when they were picked up. It's just
so much to take in, and then they give you all the information, and you're a grieving mother, so it's not easy for
you. And I had to look through all of this myself. So I picked a few friends. It's like, please go over this with me. And then that's the only way that I found. I wouldn't know anything about a hyoid bone and all this kind of other stuff. But the person that helped me to go through it, they said, Sheila, what is this? Why is this there? Why, things start to question. And I'm like, and she said, Sheila, I'm going to explain this to you. But, when I read the simple part about blunt force, to the head, the neck injuries, but those are, I think, like stab wounds. I mean,
that's just the automatic stuff that you see. So it's it's so many inconsistencies. And I even talked to a mother at one time where she told me that, like, her son died in prison, and the EMS people were she said they were very upset because when they picked up her son, he still had chains, on his arms and it bruising, that they held it so tight. And the stories didn't match up for her child too. Yeah. And man, it's I mean, like I said, you'll be surprised.
Died while he was chained up.
But I definitely commend you for, even just the strength to go this entire show, with the passion and the composure, to tell this story. And once again, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to see this show, and we're going to share it. I'm going to put it on other platforms. Yeah. And really, I'm going to take this show and take you wherever I go. I meet somebody who is on the same page, because we have certain people who are specifically tuned in to this exact issue, and know how to bring about justice. So I'm pretty sure that this is not going to be the last that wabash, wabash, whatever you call it. I'm sure that is not going to be the last time that they hear from, Richard Taylor or Sheila Arnold, or whatever group that we put together, because I'm ready. Like I said,
I want other. I mean, the Word of God says, shed light in the dark places. Be a light. Expose evil, because you're gonna have to have. I would tell them, the ward now, it's like, what, you guys need an opportunity to change. You're my enemy. You was my son's enemy, but you know what? I'm not your judge at the end. But I'm telling you, or God wants to know. Are you gonna get it straight? Or you gonna straighten up and fly right? Or you're gonna continue this way? Because guess what? I'm putting it in your face what you're doing and what's going on. Now, if you continue, the Father, He sees that. He sees your evil, that you want to continue evil, and you don't want to stand up for right and take accountability for what's going on in your house. This is your house. What goes over in your house, just like the president. What goes on in the United States, that's why he gets flack for that. God put him in office over that.
You're right.
You've been put in office over this prison. Okay, this warden over this prison. Okay, you're gonna send all this to this. What's going on? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna change your rules? What are you gonna do? Then we'll take it to this is what's going on. Is anybody gonna take any accountability? And like you said, governor. Okay, now that I know better, have all this stuff written down and all this is going on. Governor, what are you going to do not looking at me, but the Father. And it's like, oh, by the way, do you believe in God? And this is me. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus? Because you know what? The people that was responsible for my son's death, guess what? You're going to meet death one day also. So I want to know, are you going to do something about these young men dying in the prison? Or you have the power. You have the power to change something. God has put it in your hands. So what are you going to do anything about it in the name of Jesus? It's like, have you been praying? Do you go to church? I mean, I want to speak to the soul of that person, because that's who they're going to meet, and that's who I represent. You're going to meet your maker one day. So I'm speaking to your soul. What are you going to do? Are you going to help me? Do we need to, like get some laws, some things changed to where, okay, yeah, you're not responsible. You don't really know all these people, the guards that are being hired. Okay. Evil, good, whatever. Okay. But can we put something together to make sure that if you do get an evil person in there, or somebody that's wanting to harm or do something, make them accountable, or the prison, the warden? How you going to hold this? The governors, the warden, or whoever else, and then the guards. I'm just saying, it's
a hierarchy.
Yeah, it's a line
down, but once again, you have to start at the top, because what I found is the top sets the tone for the bottom. So, if the warden comes in with a sense of justice, righteousness, of, hey, don't mistreat none of my inmates, then that's what the guards and administrators and everybody under him are going to do. But if he comes in with that mentality of be hard on them, don't let them do nothing, I don't care about them, then that's the kind of culture that's going to breed these circumstances that we so often read about. And, you had the unfortunate experience of having to endure. So.
Yeah. And is it any different? Like, okay, police in the prison, police out here where God has already brought them into accountability through George Floyd. What happened to him? God let that be on blast. And it says, okay, you know what? Y'all need to take responsibility. This is on blast all over the world. Police, just police, period, your responsibility. So the ones that misuse their authority, they need to be accountable. I don't care if you're on the street or if you're in a prison. You're a police prison to keep everything safe, make sure everything is going well. You're no different. This is what you're getting paid to do. This is what
you have the responsibility. And
exactly, responsibility and accountability. Yes, because you're no different. Because we fighting it out here, but you're letting it go in here.
Yeah.
Hiding it.
Yeah, and it's so easily to be swept under the rug that, nobody is able to go in there and be like, wait a minute, let me investigate this. Like nobody's able to go to the scene, like nobody was able to go to your son's cell and be like, wait a, let's make sure, okay, how, where does this blood come from? Where this, there's no, forensics or whatever being conducted in prisons. It's just, okay, what happened? What did the warden say? What did the guard say? What did the inmate say? Okay, that's the story. And we're going to stick to it, regardless of what the evidence say. But, fortunately,
there is none of that. They don't have accountability. Yeah, responsibility to make that appear. That makes no sense. It should be illegal. It should be illegal. It should be illegal, and they should be forced to produce all the records, or else you're going to be held accountable.
But you have been diligent, though, and that's one thing that a lot of people are probably not when those things happen. They just say, "Okay, well, all right," But you have been so diligent that you have the necessary tools to, bring the people to justice, because you have all the, once again, the evidence, the reports, the photos, all of those things are the necessary tools that you need to keep pounding and to keep pushing. And once again, those that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They will run and not get weary. They shall walk and not faint. So that's what we have to do. We have to keep this issue pressing on the front lines, on the bottom lines, the back lines, on the underground lines, because and I actually I think got a message from Jay, who interviewed you first, and she was like, "Thank you so much for having her. She's such a sweetheart." And what you are, like I said, I can,
Thank you, Jay.
and I just
she keep up with me.
Yeah, so and she is too, but that's what I'm saying. She has that same heart to fight for those who are behind bars. I watch her show, every time that she does an interview. Her interview is called Prison Riot Radio.
Yeah,
which is just
she has a heart of gold. She has the calling on her life for that.
Yeah,
she really does.
And once again, that's my passion, to go into the darkest place, we call a prison.
Boy, it's dark.
It's dark, man, because like you're in a dungeon, as one of my friends used to call it. He was like, I was in these. No, he called them tombs. He said I spent 16 years in those tombs, which are basically, if you think about a cell, it's almost a tomb, where they keep you locked away, and
and that solitary confinement, it shouldn't even exist like that. I couldn't believe that there was guys that spend all of that time, and then look how they complain, and all the doctors all of a sudden want to come out and talk about like the pandemic, where everybody has to stay in their house and not mingle and be with other people, or there are people dying by themselves. All of a sudden they're talking about mental illness, they're talking about touch and everything. Well, what do you think the prisoners are going through? Why is it okay out here? Now you're realizing, so that's an automatic case for what's going on in prison. It's wrong. Okay, they take away the visits, can't see their kids, take away the phone calls, can't talk on the phone. They're already separated, they're already isolated.
Yeah.
You're just continually punishing them, taking their brain and their stamina to live.
Yeah,
human beings.
Human connection is one of the most important things that we have to do. Like you said, they're doing studies about children being depressed when they couldn't go to school. And my daughter told me that one day. She was like, "Daddy, I'm depressed." I'm like, "What are you depressed about? Like, you're 12, But as I started hearing and started seeing, okay, no, 85% of children are just because they can't be around their friends. They don't have that human contact, that social contact. And when my daughter, that last summer, she started going back to camps, and like, she's a totally different person. Like, she's just so happy and giddy and lucky. Oh, my friend this, my friend that, my friend this, my friend that, because that's a natural human need.
Exactly.
To be around other humans.
Exactly. And they take that human need, they take that away from the inmates. They take it away.
Yeah.
They take it away, but I really, my help, my circle is like really small, like, I have you now, a couple of other people, and then I have like, there's two young ladies. I'm not going to say their last name. They probably won't be saying, but there's two young ladies. One lady is Steph, and one lady is Joe. There has been like, a couple of young ladies that have been consistent with me. I really, really want to say that, and now there's Jay Renee, the few people, and it's like, I know that it's kind of like, you got to do it alone. But you also have God still also bring people with you. It's like everybody can't be here with me. Sometimes it's just gonna have to be me and God, But I just want to say, I'm like just thankful for, my small circle and even the people that God is bringing alongside me, because obviously, they're supposed to be there.
Yes.
But at the same time, God is like, Sheila, keep me at the head, because like we were talking about mental illness and things like that. It doesn't matter. You still need somebody to talk to, the prophets and all of them, the 12 disciples, they still had to talk. Well, like Paul is in prison and he's still need that community. God's gonna have somebody. So I thank the Lord for, the circle, that I have. And I mean, I just don't know what I would do, without the circle that I have. And I just want the Lord to know that I understand at the same time, Sheila, everybody's going through something. Even the people that I have there to support you, you got to keep that in your mind. You got to keep it in your heart and know that I am your main, I'm the main one, sometimes. And I just thank God, and I have to be appreciative, for the people that in my life. I mean, there are people that like you kind of want more, you know what I mean? Oh, I wish, that, but it's like it's okay, It's like it's really okay.
Yeah.
And I know your heart. I know your heart. And like even one of my kids, my sister's kids, he's like, I don't want to get too involved because it hurts.
Yeah.
Because when I think about, and like that's his brother, they were all raised together. When I think about my brother, what they did to him, and see, it makes him angry too. And so I'm angry and I'm hurt. Sometimes, I'll just go there. I'm angry and I'm hurt. But see, they get, some guys, they get so angry, then the enemy will take their mind and want to, go somewhere else.
You have to.
Yeah, so they would rather, I don't want to entertain it because it hurts so bad. And that's in my family. And I understand that.
Yeah. And you have to understand, because like, a lot of people grieve a lot of different ways. Some people
exactly.
And to keep away from that anger, some people just, like to detach.
Yeah.
Detach from it, not once again think about it, not put it in their mental space. So, we have to give people their space to do what they need to do.
Exactly.
For themselves. And so, but I know that you have a passion and a call and a mission now.
Thank you.
I'm definitely a part of that mission.
Yes.
We have another show coming up at 12, so I know that the owner got to get ready.
Okay.
But I mean, I thank you.
Wow. No, I thank you.
Sharing.
I thank you.
I can sit and listen and talk to you for hours. And I definitely just want to thank you and thank all of our Facebook viewers for staying with us over time, looking at.
Thank them too. Yeah.
And once again, don't forget, if you do have any advice, resources, expertise that can help Mrs. Arnold, her email is Sheila Arnold 429.
Yes.
At gmail.com, and also her Facebook page is Sheila Arnold. So if anybody wants to reach out to her and give her advice on how she can further receive justice, or what to do with the information that she already has, once again, you can email her at Sheila Arnold 429 at gmail.com. But I certainly thank you, and
thank you so much. I appreciate you.
We are
lifesaver.
So I'm going to talk to you, pretty soon, but I wish you have a blessed night. Is there anything else you want to say to our listening audience before we go?
No, just want to just thank everyone, the ones that came in now or check in later. I just want to say, I need you guys and other mothers that are like me, the inmates, they need you. They need you. And I just want you to keep just praying for me. And the journey that we continue to be on and support. Just don't leave us, don't give us up, don't give up on us. Just hang in there with us.
Mm-hmm.
Join me in doing kingdom work.
Yeah.
Word of God. The prisoners are important to God.
We need all the help that we can get. So I want to thank y'all once
again, and God bless you, my brother.
God bless you. I'll talk with you soon. Have a great night. Get some rest.
I'll probably cry a little bit now privately, but it's okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to call you and check on you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You have a good night.
All right. Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a blessed night.